What's your reaction to the whole Fultz situation?
I'm incredibly relieved. He needs help. And his shoulder is one thing. Psychologically, he also needs help. He needs all the support that he can get. He's relatively fragile in that regard, and according to some people, I don't know him, this is what they say. And you watch him on the court, there is such...
You mean like mental toughness?
Well, I just think that,
he's seeing a shoulder specialist. He needs to see a head specialist.
He needs both.
Yeah,
he needs both. He needs both. He needs both. Because, his confidence is shattered for a lot of different reasons, some of which don't have anything to do with basketball. Having said all of that, people need to understand this. There's not just a considerable drop-off from J.J. Redick to him. There's a considerable drop-off from T.J. McConnell to him. T.J. McConnell is a nice
TJ's a good player.
He's a damn good player and a nice reserve, but it's not supposed to be a considerable drop-off from T.J. McConnell to the #1 overall pick. That's not supposed to happen, but it has happened. And so as a result, why would that happen? Markelle Fultz can score. He can play in terms of he can put the ball in the hole. He can't shoot yet because of the shoulder, but his lack of understanding for the game, the just nuances of the game, the feel for the game, etc., that's not a strength of his, which has been a problem for Brett Brown in the past. Markelle Fultz didn't play this year because Markelle Fultz deserved it. Markelle Fultz played this year because he's the former #1 overall pick that the Philadelphia 76ers have to justify taking him in that slot for. They put him on there because we all looked at Brett Brown and said, last year when Markelle Fultz putting the ball in the hole, how do you not play this man? You got to find a way to validate Brian Colangelo giving up a pick and moving up to #1 overall. Not that it would work.
He's a bad idea GM.
I mean, not that it would work, but you got to at least try to show what this kid is made of. But there is a lack of understanding when it comes to having a feel for the game of basketball on the NBA level for Markelle Fultz. He can put the ball in the hole, but he can't shoot, and psychologically, he has been severely compromised because of some demons that have nothing to do with basketball, and it's affected his game. So I'm glad that he's getting help, but I hope it's not just the shoulder. I hope it's up here as well.
It's in his head, obviously. It's obviously in his head. His confidence is shattered, and that doesn't mean, well, he's soft, get rid of him. We saw LeBron James be overwhelmed by the fourth quarter when Miami played Dallas in the finals. Fourth quarters. He was overwhelmed psychologically, emotionally. LeBron James wound up being a great clutch player. But it didn't look like that. It looked like, the Jordan ship had sailed back then, right? Zach Greinke in Major League Baseball came up as one of the most highly touted pitchers at his age in a generation and had an anxiety disorder. Remember? And he couldn't pitch, and he had to go get help.
A lot of people deal with mental illness.
You know how hard it is to throw? You ever throw out a first pitch at a baseball game when people are looking at you and it'd be embarrassing to mess up? What if you do that for a living and you're playing in front of tens of thousands every night and hundreds of thousands on television and you have anxiety disorder? Zach Greinke wound up being a great major league pitcher who had excellent outings in the postseason under enormous pressure in a huge market like Los Angeles. It's not the end of the road for Markelle Fultz because he's going through some psychological stuff right now. And let me tell you when I watch his shot, I think that shot's okay. That's a fixable shot. I asked Coach Mackey about it, Stephen A. Smith. Coach Mackey, my daughter's skills development.
Go ahead.
And steady buckets. Shout out Coach Mackey. I said, Coach, Markelle Fultz's shot looks technically okay to me. Like, he's not missing left and right so much, long and short more, right? Which is okay. But technically it looks okay. And Coach Mackey said he's not shooting at the apex of his jump. His legs and arms aren't working together. By the way, I mentioned Ben Simmons looks the same thing to me. He said, that's right. Ben Simmons has the same problem. Those kind of problems, in terms of his shot, are technical and be fixed. Like, Lonzo Ball's shot looks stranger and needs more work to make it consistent to me in the long run than Markelle Fultz. So what we see from Fultz is something that with a minor technical adjustment physically and a major one psychologically, he can still be an excellent NBA player.
You're talking about all of that, but there's so many serious questions about him psychologically, and some people, close to the organization have attributed it to family pressure as well. You got the psychological demons. You got the pressure from the family. You got the pressure of being the #1 overall pick, but got a nasty shoulder injury that has completely compromised your shot. Meanwhile, you also have the pressure mounting because people are looking for you to validate your existence because Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons are the cornerstones of the franchise. You now acquired Jimmy Butler. And, oh, by the way, Jason Tatum is in the league. Donovan Mitchell's in the league. Markelle is in the league. De'Aaron Fox is coming on strong in Sacramento. You got Dennis Smith Jr. in Dallas.
Not doing so bad this year, Sacramento.
Not at all. So they're looking at this guy and they're saying, what is up? The Philadelphia 76ers, let's put it in this right place. If Markelle Fultz was a shred of what he was supposed to be, you don't make that deal for Jimmy Butler because you don't need to. Not for Jimmy Butler.
I agree with everything you're saying.
You needed Jimmy Butler because of what he is not.
I agree with everything you're saying. It's going to be a major blunder because you traded a draft pick to not take Jason Tatum and take Fultz instead, which is crazy in retrospect. But I want to say this, just in general, about Markelle Fultz and these athletes who we expect to not only be 1 in a million athletes, but 1 in a million people. The pressures that they are facing are enormous. And the fact that when someone like Markelle Fultz seems to start to crack, that's the exception, is really says a lot about how well most of these young athletes handle everything. Yeah. And it doesn't mean a death knell for his career.
Not at all.
At all. When you were, just think back, everyone, to more mature adults, to when you were 20 years old. Imagine everything you're going through at that moment in your life being seen by everybody in the world. How would you have handled it? I don't think the script has been written for Markelle Fultz yet.
That's fair, and I hope you're right. But in all fairness, it may not be just about what others are. It might be about the fact that he really is a kid at heart and wasn't ready for this.